just talked to myself for a whole half an hour. Microphone was not hooked up. It's like this. I don't know how many times I've done that. I've done it so many times. And so I'm just talking out loud like I'm crazy. Uh, Now I see. I gotta teach myself to look at the microphone bar here, and if it's not moving, it means I'm dead. So at least by audio. Uh, so I'm starting all over again. It's now 7 o'clock on October 1st. Happy Halloween every day during the pandemic. Spooky mask, man. Uh, so I hope you're doing good. What we're going to do is go over three letters here: 63, 64, 65, Seneca. So we're past the halfway point. First letter is on grief for lost friends. Next letter is on the philosopher's task, which is not published in this 1969 publication. And then the letter 65, which is on the first cause. Um, so yeah, I've done this too many times. I make the same mistake over and over again. Not checking my mic. I'm sure I got a good live mic. Got the opposite problem of having a hot mic. Uh, so, anyways, the first letter here is if you're old enough in life, your friends will die. That's basically what this letter's about. Um, so Lucilius wrote to Seneca and his friend named Flaccus's death. He dies, and so Lucilius is trying to console. Seneca is trying to console Lucilius because he lost his friend, and so Seneca is saying, "Sorry to hear of your friend Flaccus's death. As for us, we can be pardoned for having given way to tears, so long as they have not run down in excessive quantities. And we have checked them for ourselves. When one has lost a friend, one's eyes should be neither dry nor streaming." Sorry, I got this stupid alarm thing going on here. Tears, yes, there should be, but not lamentation. Can you find the rule I am laying down, a harsh one, when the greatest of Greek poets is restricted to a single day, no more person's right to cry, in the passage where he tells us that even Niobe, it's from the Homer Iliad, the book Iliad, remembered to eat. He even remembered to eat. I guess one guy was remorsing. Um. So yeah. Uh, Something, if you live long enough in life and you have friends, unless you don't have any friends, that's one benefit of not having friends is you don't have to cry about them. But that's I'd prefer to have friends. Uh, but yeah, if you had no friends and you'd have nobody to cry about, but uh, I think it's better. Well, life is definitely a richer experience when you got friends, and so. The dark side of having friends, though, is like if you happen to outlive your friend, and you're gonna have to suffer the loss of your friend, and that's what Lucilius is going through in this particular situation. And I guess Lucilius is probably crying or whatever. Um, so Seneca just saying that only one day for the men. You're allowed to cry for one day, I guess, and uh, later on he talks about woman being allowed to cry for a whole year, I guess. I can understand there's a big difference between men and women. I mean, because men, we don't have babies, and so there's like a whole different perspective on life. We've got, because got X and a man has X and Y chromosomes, while a female has two X's. So it's a whole different. I mean, I think us men were mutations probably. Who knows? Maybe you have less. I don't know if the Y chromosome just lost part of it. I don't know why they call it Y chromosome, but so anyways, so Seneca's just saying that to Lucilius to just cry for one day, kind of try to. And Seneca's next keynote here is in our tears we are trying to find means of proving that we feel the loss. We are not being governed by our grief, but parading it. No one ever goes into mourning for the benefit merely of himself. So yeah, I've. So if you're crying, I mean, mourning. I'm just turning off this device because it's always annoying me. Um, so some people cry. Uh, I mean, yeah, tears are a weird thing because I mean, there's normal practical utility, evolutionary utility from tears, and that's like if you get dust in your eyes, you cry it out and cleans it out, or your eyes get dry and you tear so that it keeps your eyes wet, which keeps them, operational. Um, but there's this weird evolutionary thing that for some reason we also cry when we feel pain and sadness, or we cry when we feel joy. You know, tears of joy and tears of sadness. So we got the two opposites of tears, and it's fascinating. I think it's like a form of communication. Also, I mean, somehow it may have evolved that to be a form of communication. Uh, but if you're crying alone, then who are you communicating with? So maybe yourself, the relationship with yourself. It's one of my critical principles is you kind of have to console yourself when you're crying. If you're crying yourself, um, and you wouldn't be parading it. Uh, but it's fascinating that for some reason we evolved to have tears of joy and tears of sadness. And okay, so next keynote here. Seneca's saying, think of departed friends is to me something sweet and mellow, for when I had them with me, it was with the feeling that I was going to lose them. Now that I've lost them, I keep the feeling that I have them with me still. So yeah, the experiences you have with your friends, the memories are resonant optical and acoustic memories that are kind of like hysteresis. The nervous system stores the memories, and that's how they kind of live on with you even after you're gone, in a sense. Um, but unfortunately, when that person's dead, you can only recall your memories alone, and so it's not a new memory each time you recall it. But if you recall a memory of somebody you've known for a long time, then it's almost like it's a new memory every time because the other person will always have a different perspective, and thus can never truly fully communicate the other perspective. But you can kind of come close, and and that's why long friendships are true wealth because your whole life it gives you a meaning in your whole life to try to understand life. Uh, to have somebody you can share your perception with, who has a different, who will always have a different perception. Everybody has a different perception. There's always, unless a person's living inside your body, you can't have the same perception because you're always There's no other human being that'll have the same perception that you have because you're just in physically different environments. But just like I say, if I were to clone myself, I clone myself and I may be the same person at the moment I've cloned myself, but within the next microsecond, the other clone is going to be slightly different than me because the other clone has got a slightly different experience because it's different position, geometric position in the universe. So, and that diverges kind of over time, if especially if you don't if we weren't next to my clone all the time. I don't have a clone though, as far as I know. But okay, let's go on next year. Seneca is talking about. Um, Seneca says here, let us therefore go all out to make the most of friends, since no one can tell how long we shall have the opportunity. Let us just think how often we leave them behind when we are setting out some long journey or another, or how often we fail to see them when we are staying in the same area, and we shall realize that we have lost all too much time while they are still alive. So yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I didn't really realize that. And so one of my friends actually died, passed away before I got a chance to say hi after a while. And that was not easy for me. Uh, and yeah, I was happened to be in the same area, and there's a friend of mine that used to live right one cul-de-sac over, and yeah, it's just when you're young, you don't realize you haven't had enough people die, and unfortunately, it's one of those things where you really don't really know until your friends die, and then it's too late. Uh, but but it at least if you're older, you have that experience, and then you can have the wisdom to know that hey, I gotta if I'm in the happen to be in the area, I'm gonna call my buddy up, say hi, still alive, still kicking. Uh, but yeah, if you don't do it, sooner or later it may be too late, and the person's dead, and you can never see him again. So so yeah, I mean that's so true. I kind of wish I knew this 20 years ago. This friend of mine was over 20 years ago. It's like 22 years ago or so. And yeah, I used to play soccer with him. He'd always be in like a goalie position, and I'd be like a forward position. But yeah, it's sad. I mean, it's just like, uh, but it's life, and it's something you don't appreciate your friend until your friend's gone. That's I mean that's I mean unless you meditate on the loss of your friends or the loss. That's why I say I think it's so important. That's what Marcus Aurelius would say a lot in his book or his to himself journal. Was I mean just pretty much every day you meditate on the loss of everything, the loss of everybody around you and yourself. And I even take that to a higher level. Meditate on the loss of human consciousness. I mean, we're that if you look at the anthropological record, 99% of all species become extinct. So it's like, and we're sapiens, we are. I think I really think we are genuinely taking our species, sapiens, for granted. Um, I mean, all you got to do is look at a satellite picture of the Earth at night, like from the space station, and you'll see. Um, you have to be in total denial that we have humans have basically covered the entire ball except for the oceans and the Antarctica. In the atmosphere, so you got this ball that we live on. The atmosphere is only like a very small amount, and so it's as I said in other videos, I could probably ride my bicycle through the entire atmosphere in a couple of hours if I went if I rode vertically. I know it's not practical for me to ride vertically, but uh, so I would extend this even further to say, we need to realize that we could lose ourselves, our whole species, if we're not careful. So, and I really, we are a boiling frog right now. I mean, our temperatures are rising, and there's just too much evidence that something's going on. Um, and so, you kind of think of it if you ever, like, if you're in a desert place and it's really hot, and you can, if you go inside an attic, if you want to know what the greenhouse effect is like, just go inside an attic in a desert. It's an enclosed area, and so it's like if the ambient temperature outside, say 120 Fahrenheit, well, inside your attic is going to be like 160 Fahrenheit. I mean, really high temperature, much higher than the ambient because the infrared radiation gets trapped inside there because it bounces. Once it gets through, it starts to bounce and stay inside because it's a lower frequency light, kind of resonance inside the chamber. Um, and that's kind of what's going on with our atmosphere. We pump in more and more chemicals that are not natural. They're human-made chemicals and animal-made chemicals too, that methane, and that starts forming like a roof over the entire planet. And then we have the greenhouse effect. So I don't know why they kind of stopped saying greenhouse effect. It's something I'm kind of puzzled with why that has kind of disappeared from the talk about climate change or global warming. Because the greenhouse is something you can experience directly here on Earth. Just I mean, for anybody who denies what's going on, just take them in an attic. That's another form of a greenhouse, or an actual greenhouse in the desert, but without any circulation. So, anyways, it's. I would limit this just to what Seneca's perspective is. Of course, Seneca didn't have a space station, didn't get to be able to see the Earth from space, and all the lights and everything that we have now. Uh, and same with Marcus Aurelius and the other philosophers. They didn't have access to that information. We have that now. Okay, so next keynote here. Other friends, we are hardly kind of appreciative of them if they count for so very little when it comes to consoling us for the one we have buried. If we have no other friends, we have done ourselves a greater injury than fortune has done us. She has deprived us of a single friend, but we have deprived ourselves of every friend we have failed to make. The person, moreover, who has not been able to care about more than one friend cannot have cared even about that one too much. Um, yeah, so yeah, it's if you don't have any friends, you you won't have anybody to mourn when they're dead. I mean, that's the bright side of not having any friends, but it's not a rich life. And that's kind of what Seneca's saying here is, if you don't have deep friendships and didn't appreciate. So, so yeah, it's friendships. It's hard to. It's hard to have a deep friendship with people because we all know that if you happen to live longer than your friend, you're gonna suffer a lot because when a friend dies, and you're gonna suffer from it. If you happen to be the one that dies first, then you don't suffer except in your death itself. But if you suffer during your death, um, yeah. So I'm thinking in my head right now because I talked to myself for about an hour and my microphone was off. No, it was a half an hour. And I wrote like a bunch of notes, and now these notes are not coming back because that is gone. uh, I'll still put them in the comments below. At least you'd have an idea of what I was talking to myself. Um, okay, so next keynote. You have buried someone you loved. Now look for someone to love. It is better to make good the loss of a friend than to cry over him. So there was a bird that died. If you saw a video, but this bad black cat that's kind of hanging out, kind of a friend, but a bad friend, I guess. Uh, so the cat killed a bird, and I tried to save it. The bird was just outside. I kind of tried to save the bird. It was too late. I mean, I'm not a bird doctor, so uh, but and I feel sad about bird dying, and so I actually moved it to a tree. So hopefully, at least the molecules will help the tree grow a little bit. It's probably going to serve the ants more than the tree. But ants they're just like a Kentucky Fried Chicken bird or something. I mean, it's not fried, it's not cooked or anything, but the ants are just like all over the poor thing. Yesterday, it was like, life is not easy. Uh, but anyways, I mean, the bird I feel sorry for, and I buried it. So yeah, I know I might. Uh, but anyway, what Seneca is just saying here is just you got to move on. It's like you always have to. I mean, there's really no choice. You don't have a choice in that matter, really. I mean, generally you don't. Practically, you don't have a choice. So uh, to make a new good friend, I've lost a lot of pets. I mean, actually, I've had cats and dogs, and they've all died. When I went to college, they all died. Actually, cat died when I moved across town. Uh, the dogs died though when I was away from home, and it's kind of hard to deal. And I never really had a pet after that because I kind of feel like I could never feel the set. I mean, maybe I didn't grieve enough. I don't know. I just part of it too is I like to be able to travel, so I know that's maybe why I don't have pets. Maybe it's I travel so much, but I haven't really looked for a new pet other than this black cat that's being a bad black cat. Well, it's just being its nature. It's just nature to kill things. I mean, it's basically like a miniature lion. It's like a lion in the jungle. It's closest relative, a tiger, wildcat. And so it's in its nature to kill things. I mean, it's just totally in its nature. It's almost unnatural for it to be inside. But a lot of cats do just stay inside. So I mean, it's um, some cats do both, I guess, inside and outside. Um, so uh, I do miss my pets, but I mean, I guess this black cat just kind of came into my life, but now it's acted bad, and I put it all over the internet on YouTube. So, well, the good thing I only have like one subscriber, so at least I don't have to worry about everybody seeing it, or two subscribers. Uh, so, oh well. Okay, so next keynote, Seneca says, I should prefer to see you abandoning grief than it abandoning you. Much as you may wish to, you will not be able to keep it up for very long, so give it up as early as possible. For woman, our forefathers fixed the period of mourning at a year with the intention that not that woman should continue mourning as long as that, but that day should not go on any longer. For men, no period is prescribed at all because none would be decent. Of course, up early in the letter he says 1 day, but uh, so one of the things. Oh yeah, I talked earlier about crying a little bit. There's a congressman that would cry a lot, and I forget his name. His first name is John. Congressman or senator, and I always put it in the notes below. Um, but yeah, it's weird. Crying is a weird thing because people cry for a lot of different reasons. I mean, there's practical reasons like keeping your eyes clear, and then there's this weird thing that we cry because we feel sad, and then another weird thing is we cry because we feel joy. And then there's other people that maybe like that do it for manipulating other people, which to me is uh, yeah, it's not. I don't know. Um, I'll put that down in the comments. That maybe a video of the congressman that was crying, but kind of lets you know what I'm talking about. Uh, okay, so next keynote here. Seneca is saying, I realize now that my sorrowing in the way I did was mainly due to the fact that I had never considered the possibility of his dying before me. So Seneca's talking about his own friend, and I can't pronounce it right, Aeneas Serenus, something like that. Um, that's kind of how I felt like when I lost my one of my friends that I played soccer with. Uh, yeah, when you're younger, you just don't realize it. When you're older, the more people you have around you die, the more you realize how much you appreciate your time with your friends. Okay, so the next keynote here, 9. So let us bear it constantly in mind that those we are fond of are just as liable to death as we are ourselves. Yes, I mean, we're all going to die. And, that bird that died yesterday, all the animals are going to die too. Everything's, I mean, once you're born, you like signed a contract to die almost, basically. And basically, it's like a 100% certainty, 99.99% certainty. Um, So that's good to meditate on death. And that's why there's churches on every street corner almost all over the world, because that's how we try to cope with this death that we all have to deal with. We all have to deal with the death of the people around us and the death of ourselves. And that's a big it's challenge. And it's the Stoics try to process, try to optimize our surviving that kind of situation, and that's probably how all the myths are formed. I mean, all the Abrahamic myths and any kind of any religion in the world. Uh, because our brains are probably a lot more evolved than animals in terms of understanding death more in a higher amplitude in a sense, and so we had to create in our heads these ideas of what may happen or these possibilities. Our imagination, helped carry ideas forward. Uh, but some of those are kind of sick. I mean, you have to be totally honest. I mean, and I don't want to bash religion, but I have to look at the fact that worshiping a torture device is kind of a crazy idea. It's a great way to control people, a great way to manipulate and capitalize off of fear. That's probably why Christianity is so powerful, because it's capitalized off of fear, fear of death, and so it's kind of in your head type. And I'll put in the comments a song. There's a song, and I forget the author of the song. I'll find it and I'll put in a comment below. But it's called "In Your Head." I mean, it's one of the lyrics. Um, Another reference I like is Sam Harris. Kind of talks about consciousness, but uh, I'm trying to resurrect my before this video. I didn't realize my microphone was off, so I was talking to myself for like a half an hour. And I was talking to the microphone in the sky, so to speak. Uh, it's like when you send a print job to a printer, you don't know where the printer is. Send it to the printer in the sky. Uh, I learned that joke from a job I had when I was living in Tucson for a while. It's like a really funny co-workers. I was telling them, I don't know where I sent a print job somewhere, and such a big plant. Didn't know where the printer was. I didn't know which printer. There were like so many different printers. And he just said, "Oh, you sent it to a printer in the sky." It's kind of funny to end up working on something like that. Uh, okay, so yeah, it's like Marcus Aurelius. He'd also constantly, try to meditate on their death and death. And like I said, take it to the level of death of sapiens. I mean, we want to survive. You don't appreciate the existence of all of us sapiens if you don't meditate on the end of us sapiens. So it's like it's kind of like with global warming, and a lot of people don't want to believe it or don't want to appreciate it, and so uh, they're kind of like in denial of the death of humanity. So, and the more people you have denying the death of humanity, the more probable that we will have the death of humanity. I mean, to focus on what we want, it's like I know we need to focus more on what we want and not what we don't want. However, we need to know both, but dominate on what we want. So it's a paradox, but we don't want to become extinct. We need to meditate on the fact that we have a high chance of becoming extinct. if we meditate in all the time, then we have a better chance of figuring out, okay, how to colonize the moon, how to colonize Mars, how to colonize a huge, Las Vegas-sized space station city or something like that. Um, and so we need to meditate on that. Okay, so Seneca here is saying that my last keynote for this letter. It was just because I did not do so that fortune caught me unprepared. The sudden blow. Now I bear in mind not only that all things are liable to death, but long and reaching the place we mourn has his having reached. Perhaps too, if only there's truth in the story told by sages, some welcoming Adobe waits us. He whom supposed to be dead and gone has merely been sent on ahead. Kind of reminds me of some Twilight Zones. And I like to think of that bird that died yesterday is now in a welcoming adobe. I actually kind of created a little adobe for it by the tree. I put it at the bottom of the tree and then I put a bunch of leaves over it. So it's got like a shelter. But I mean, it's dead, but what can I do? Uh, I kind of feel like I should have stopped the cat when I was filming the. I feel kind of dumb. I should have stopped the cat. I think the bird was pretty much dead already, so I kind of thought, okay, the cat's just playing with a dead bird. Bird was still slightly alive, sadly. So. Oh well. Uh, I know if you're a medical doctor, it's got to be kind of hard. That's probably one of the hardest parts of the job is having to deal with patients that have died. Because maybe you didn't do something or whatever. It's like I guess as long as we recognize that we're all going to die, so it doesn't matter. You just do the best you can, and can't do better than that. Um, so, uh, so that's that letter. We're going to go on to the letter that wasn't published in the 1969 Penguin Classic, and that's here. It's this one, and I have. Let's see. Just have a couple of stars on here to go over. Um, so this letter is just on the philosopher's task. Seneca says, but we should play the part of a careful householder. We should increase what we have inherited. This inheritance shall pass from me to my descendants larger than before. Much still remains to do, and much will always remain. And he shall be born 1,000 ages hence, which is kind of now almost, 2,000 years later, will not be barred from his opportunity of adding something further. So what do I have to add? I don't know. But even if the old masters have discovered everything, one thing will be always new: the application and scientific study and classification of the discoveries made by others. Assume that prescriptions have been handed down to us for the healing of the eyes. There's no need of my searching for others in addition, but for all that, these prescriptions must be adapted to the particular disease and a particular stage of disease. Talks something about. It's kind of weird. He's talking about like swelling of the eyelids, tears, pain, or just to prevent the sudden pain or a rush of tears. I don't know if he's talking about mourning. I mean, death or sadness. Uh, so he's saying the cures of the spirit also have been discovered by the ancients, but it is our task to learn the method. In the time of treatment, our predecessors have worked much improvement They're not worked out the problem. They deserve respect, however, and should be worshipped with a divine ritual. Why should I not keep statues of great men to kindle my enthusiasm and celebrate their birthdays? Why should I not continually greet with them with respect and honor? The reverence which I owe to my teachers, I owe in like measure to those teachers of the human race, the source from which the beginnings of such great blessings have flowed. Okay, so that's Seneca kind of talking about knowledge and task of the philosopher. Okay, so this is letter 65. The first cause is in the book. Okay, in the paper book. And my first keynote is on. So Seneca says, so though human beings may perish, humanity in itself, the pattern of which every human being is molded, lasts on, and while human beings go through much and pass away, itself remains quite unaffected. Matter and energy being conserved. Now here's the problem. Seneca, okay, he may have not thought about. This is where I think some of the early Roman philosophers probably didn't. Or the Roman philosophers kind of may have had a perception that the world is huge. I mean, we still have that perception, but when you have air travel before a pandemic, and hopefully after a pandemic, if we still have air travel, uh, the perception of Seneca is probably that Earth is so huge you don't have to worry about, you know, consuming the entire Earth like a petri dish where we totally overpopulate everything. Uh, and so he says it lasts on, but I have to say I disagree because I mean not only the anthropological record. If you study anthropology, 99% of all species become extinct. We humans are one species. Will it be that 1% that survives? I don't know. We might, hopefully, but odds are not good. I mean, would you step on an airplane if you knew that you had a 99% chance of dying and only 1% chance of survival? So it's like, okay, that's why we gotta that's why we gotta meditate on the death of sapiens. If we don't do that, then we won't figure out how to survive. We don't have the incentives, and the that's one of the fatal flaws of capitalism. Is capitalism thinks in really short term. Now, granted, Elon Musk is trying his best to try to get us to colonize Mars and everything. But the problem is, I really think you need the government to really fully be able to do that. I mean, to really get people going, or a cold like a cold war or a competition that causes at least a cooperative competition. It's one thing. I mean, you almost need a leader like John F. Kennedy, but unfortunately he died. And I think the oligarchy probably got jealous of his spending on Apollo. And that jealousy is even true today, because I even see it in political campaigns. Like, for instance, here in Arizona, there's an astronaut senator, and it's like I see the stupidest, most pathetic ads I've ever could possibly imagine. This like dancing astronauts. Oh, he's spending all the money. It's like, okay, if you don't like the the spending on technology, especially the military technology, which was part of the Apollo space program, was a military project. And if you don't like that, then get rid of your internet. Stop watching the internet. Stop using the internet because that was a DARPA project. That was a socialist project. That was the taxpayer funded, subsidized transmission control protocol, internet protocol. That was also university funding, Berkeley University, Berkeley sockets. So it's just like it just amazes me what it is. What I see it as jealousy. It's just some people are just not are taking it for granted. Really, it's it's narcissism. They're taking the technology for granted. It's like a lot of these tech companies take it for granted. They're running off of the fundamental foundation of socialism. Really, I mean, it's taxpayer-funded projects that created the internet. It was designed to survive nuclear war. So if one city blew up, you still had communications because they could route around. So it was designed for nuclear war, and now at least the globe has you can utilize it. It's got civilian applications, which is tremendously valuable. And it works both ways though too. I mean, it's good and bad, but I there's so much anti-science in America. It's kind of sad. It's just I mean, I think it started in the last Apollo mission. Apollo 18 was canceled. That's probably when the STEM pipeline was crushed. The science, technology, engineering, math pipeline was crushed because oligarchy got jealous. Oligarchy did not want to compete with the government, and so now it's kind of captured the control of the government, and so it's harder to do great things. It's not rocket science anymore. It's just do small, cheap, small, easy stuff. It's not do great things anymore. So not we're not making America great by saying it's not it's not rocket science. I mean, it's good to think simply, but it's also you're not going to do. It's going to be harder to do great things if you just think simply. I mean, it's good to break complex things down into the simplest forms, and that's how you do great things. It's small steps to a giant leap. But but yeah, so I mean, not Seneca's saying not, I mean, not only human beings perish, but what Seneca didn't point out is that, and I think because he just didn't have a satellite picture of the Earth at night to realize that we've populated the whole Earth. And I think we look at us as gods. And we got airplanes, we got cell phones, we got computers, we got cars, we got jets, huge ships, space station. We went to the moon. I mean, all these things. Seneca would look at us as like fucking gods. I mean, we'd be fucking gods. I mean, it's like, uh, and we don't now because it's all over the place. We're just so used to it. We don't fucking appreciate it. I think that's the sad thing is I think most people are spoiled. They don't appreciate the tremendous, powerful technology that we have, and it's not easy to achieve that. And so it's. And if I just look at this one cell phone, there's probably like hundreds of thousands of people involved in just that because it's really an evolution. It started early. I mean, it started with a telegraph, or some guy, Tesla experimenting, or you know, Marconi, Marconi antenna. Um, so it's it's all connected. So there's a great documentary series. I'll put it in the comments below. It's called Connections. I think it's a British documentary. It's a great documentary. And I'll send you a link to it so you can watch it. If you're like me and you love science, you can watch the whole documentary. Connections. Um, it's an old documentary. It's not a new one. It's like probably in the 80s or 90s or 70s. I don't know. Okay, so next keynote here, too. The soul which yearns to win free of the heavy load, it is saddled with here and returned to the world where it once belonged. The soul, for it is depends on everybody has a different perspective of what that means. It may mean nothing to some people. For it is this body of ours is a burden and a torment. That's kind of how I felt the bird yesterday. I was seeing the poor bird die. Just kind of shaking, is in torment. It's like, oh god, why did I have to see this? Of course, I make a video of it. Probably a mistake, but okay. At least now the bird is eternal if the video lasts forever, but eventually the video will probably die too, I imagine. But it kind of extends the life of the bird in a sense. Uh, and harassed by the body's overwhelming weight. I can see that bird is feeling an overwhelming weight. The soul, does the bird have a soul? I don't know. The soul is in captivity unless philosophy comes to its rescue, bidding it breathe more freely in the contemplation of nature, releasing it from earthly into heavenly surroundings. This to the soul means freedom, the ability to wander far and free. It steals away for a while from the prison in which it is confined and has its strength renewed in the world above. So, I don't even know if a bird has consciousness. Some birds are pretty smart. They're like, I think, let's say crows. Some crows like have. I put in the comment. Intelligent birds. Um, so, unfortunately, we can't really define what a fuck a soul is. What the fuck a soul is. I kind of see it as some kind of correlation with consciousness. But I guess it extends beyond consciousness in the terms of it could be unconscious but then be resurrected. And so that's where the idea comes in. And then it could also say that maybe what that is okay, consciousness is really a pattern, a atomic pattern of the dynamic motion and structure of the molecules of the nervous system. And that nervous, when we die, that goes through a dispersion process. Matter and energy is still conserved. However, the dynamics are no longer there because their distance has increased between the fundamental particles. And so the pattern that allowed for the consciousness to occur is 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 modified, form is changed, and it's kind of in order for that pattern the pattern would have to find its way back somehow, or reconverge, you know. But it's all, I mean, the whole universe is unwinding itself, so to speak. I mean, there's a difference between before you existed and after you existed. And that difference is the unwinding of time. In other words, the sun has a trajectory around the galaxy, and before you're alive, the sun was at a certain position in the galaxy. And a whole prior history of that position. And then, when you live, it's a very small angle of trajectory that the sun moves while you're alive. It'd be interesting to calculate that. If you're an astrophysicist, you could comment in the notes. But I only got like one viewer. I'm probably the only one watching this. But anyways, there's a real small angle while you're alive that the sun moves around the galaxy. Okay, so that when you're born, the sun is here, and then when you're dead, the sun has moved a little bit around the galactic center, which is like a black hole. I think there's like a black hole there. And but then afterwards, uh, it's different. It's a different position. So the sun is in a different position before and after, and all the other stars and all the other objects are all in different positions. So the whole universe is unwinding itself, And so, and your existence is, when you're born, this or you're conceived, the sun, like I said, is in a certain position, but as you're all the convergence of matter and energy is kind of like the Grand Canyon. It's like a all flow together to carve your physical consciousness. And then when that erodes away and flattens out when you die, so like the Grand Canyon is no longer the Grand Canyon, it's just one big valley, which eventually happened. Just one big flat valley. So it's like the death of the Grand Canyon. And and so in order for that to exist again, it's just, you know, kind of a question. I don't really know. So it could be that it has to be duplicated exactly, which means that you will live your life over and over again. And that poor bird that died yesterday have to die over and over again, which would be horrible. It's like, oh man, I hope that's not the case, but that could be the case. Can't I can't omit that possibility, but it's something I wouldn't want to have. Um, I would hope, and I think it'd probably be maybe more probable that if it does happen again, if it do, if it's not just a permanent end, once we die, never exist again, is also a probability. But if we do happen to exist again, I think it might be more probable that we'd exist differently. And I would definitely prefer that. And I think that's kind of the Buddhist idea. I don't know hardly anything about Buddhism, but I think that's kind of that idea, but I don't really know. So it's interesting how Seneca uses Adobe, when we die. But yeah, I mean, being alive and conscious is kind of like being in a prison of your body. It's true. I mean, look at Stephen Hawking. He was kind of trapped in his body for a long time. He finally died. I'm not sure when he died. Pretty recently. Um, so, okay. So my next keynote I have on this letter uh, is the wise man and devotee of philosophy is, needless to say, inseparable from his body, and yet he is detached from it so far as the best part of his personality is concerned, directing his thoughts towards things far above. He looks on this present life of his, much like the man who has signed on as a soldier, as a term he has to serve out. And he is so made that he neither loves life nor hates it. It's a paradox. It's yin and yang. He endures the lot of mortality, even though he knows there's a finer one in store for him. So this is how I kind of view as like the asymmetrical aspect of existence. So, like I say, is like I think I view the physical self as just the asymmetry of the complete self. The complete self is everything outside, including its pin, and the fact that the pin drops because I'm experiencing gravity. The entire Earth pulling me down. Uh, so that's how I kind of see it as a philosophy looking outside of itself. Thoughts towards things like galactic or cosmology. Um, and I guess, yeah, the finer one in store for him is it's kind of seeing like an afterlife, but it might be just darkness. It might be just nothing. You may not even know when you're dead. You may not even know it. Uh, but the weird thing is I think because there's no perceptual hardware, that infinite time can go by, and you don't even notice it. It's like a microsecond from your perception when you're dead. There's no hardware to perceive, but I'm just saying if you could perceive, a microsecond may be 100 trillion years. So in a sense, everybody dies when you die. In a sense, even though the party goes on as Christopher Hitchens would say. Uh, I mean, to people alive, of course, this time is normal, but when they're dead, it's like that bird's dead now, and its perception has no hardware to perceive anymore. You may not even know it's dead, but uh, a million years can go by and it won't even know it's dead. It won't even perceive it. A trillion years go by and it doesn't know. Infinite time goes by. It doesn't. With infinite time, though, I mean, I have to say, it seems like there's infinite possibilities with infinite time. But unless everything stops in motion, then that means time stops. But I think that's one cosmological idea: is that what happens is everything just stops. It gets the coldest temperature, absolute zero, which is like 0 degrees Kelvin, and nothing moves anymore, and that's just the end of the universe. And dark, cold, stop. But that's what we only. I mean, we humans can only observe so much of the universe. Maybe that equation. There might be something we can't observe that modifies that. But that's I'm thinking well beyond our instrumentation. Okay, so next keynote I have is: Am I not to know where I am descended from, whether I am to see this world only once or be born into it again, time after time? Okay, this is kind of like the Buddhist idea. Buddhism, time after time, what my destination is to be after my stay here. What ability will await my soul on its release from the terms of its serfdom on earth? So yeah, is that bird only going to see the world only once? To see this black lion, this giant lion cat, which is really small to us, but to that bird, that lion was like a lion. It was a lion. Imagine a giant lion with a paw and scratching or attacking. I'm gonna put uh, lion attacking like a deer or something. Go in the comment below so you can kind of see how a lion hunts an animal. Okay, not for the faint of heart. Got to be an adult to watch. But I see the cat that killed the bird is kind of like the same thing. It's sad, but he's got to feel sad for the animals. But it's life. This is Darwinian. It's the nature of meat. Nature's meat. Just going after meat. Gotta fucking eat meat. Gotta fuck. That's basically it. So it's uh. So it's predator versus prey, but I think the Indians have a lot of good ideas about what happens. What happens to? I mean, actually, they kind of appreciate animals more than other cultures, maybe. Uh, okay, so yeah, it's interesting. The kind of Buddhist. I think part of it was Buddhism is a lot older. I'm still haven't decided what book we'd review next. Um, okay, so this keynote here. I am too great. Was born too great a destiny. To, too great a destiny to be my body's slave. Uh, oops. So far as I'm concerned, that body is nothing more or less than a fetter on my freedom. I place it squarely in the path of fortune, letting her expend her onslaught on it, not allowing any blow to get through it to my actual self. For that body is all that is vulnerable about me. So I'm thinking of the bird too. The bird was shaking. His body was probably an autopilot, just total autopilot. It's kind of like when you're sick and you throw up. It's like autopilot, just total autopilot. It's like you don't even feel it. You're just like observing, watching a movie. Um, Within this dwelling so liable to injury there lives a spirit that is free. Never shall this flesh compel me to feel fear, never shall it drive me to any pretense unworthy of a good man. Never shall I tell a lie out of consideration for this petty body. I shall dissolve our partnership when this seems the proper course. Even now, while we are bound one to the other, the partnership will not be in equal terms. The soul will assume undivided authority. Refusal to be influenced by one's body assures one's freedom. So that's interesting. That's powerful, but it also kind of makes me realize why Seneca succumbed to Nero. I think he should have escaped Nero. And he only lived to like 60s. He could have lived to 80s because he talked about people living in the 80s. So I think he died a little too soon. But it is what it is. Okay, so my last keynote here on this letter: what matter? Seneca says, "What matter is in the universe? The body is in us. Let the worse then serve the better. Let us meet with bravery whatever may befall us. Let us never feel a shudder at the thought of being wounded or of being made a prisoner, or of poverty or persecution. What is death? Either a transition or an end. I am not afraid of coming to an end, the being the same as never having begun, nor a transition, for I shall never be in uh, confinement quite so cramped anywhere else as I am here." Matter is in the universe, the body is in us. Yeah, when he says what matters in the universe, the body is in us, it's kind of like saying that, we are the universe and the body is just in our universe. I mean, I love the idea, the concept of that, the idea that our lives are really the universe observing itself. So my eyes and your eyes looking out, we see we're really looking at ourselves. In other words, the universe created our eyes, and so our eyes are allowed to observe the universe, which it's how we're all connected. It's are all intertwined. It's like yin and yang. Think of the universe as the black, and your life is like the white dot in the universe. But you're interconnected. You're not separable from the universe because without the universe, you wouldn't be here. You'd be dead. You can't live in a vacuum. So of course, we are like vacuums, though. The space between our atomic particles is like a vacuum. It's huge. It's like a huge space inside the body. Just like that bird that died. Okay, it's got a bunch of molecules, but the space between all of its atoms in the nervous system, even while it's alive, is vast. But now, because it's dead, that space is expanded. And so there's no ionic current flow in the neurons. There's no neurons to power its perception. So its perception's shut down. There's like no, even though the matter and energy is still there, and it flows away as infrared radiation. And the infrared radiation is kind of like the ocean wave hitting the shore. The form of the wave crashes and dies into the shore, but the sound of the wave travels to the atmosphere. And so it's kind of like the perception of the bird, hit the shore, and its perception, well, what powers its perception carries on to the atmosphere. Uh, so it's all laws of thermodynamics. So okay, so this we got that's it, right? We got 3 letters. We're just beyond the halfway point. Like it says, 124 letters. I can't believe how many hours I spent on that. it's kind of weird. Sometimes I read books and it's like I'm just right through the book. It's like I only spend a couple hours on it, and then I come across books like these for some reason. I don't know why, but I spend like 50, 100 hours. I can't believe I'm spending this much time, but sometimes sometimes I do that because maybe I don't understand or I want to go deeper maybe. But these are impossible. Philosophy is like, okay, you're not. I mean, one of the things they're trying to make it after the truth, and I guess that's why in education it's called philosophy of doctorate, and you get the highest level of education. And they also have postdoctorates, but uh, philosophy is it's trying to put things into context, the highest level of context. So I hope you enjoy this video. If you're the one other person that's watching it besides myself, um, I I wrote down some notes when because my microphone is off, and one of them is like Noam Chomsky on Kennedy. I'm not sure why I think I was talking about the space program and how we could try to how we stopped and how we can continue on, and then Kennedy was assassinated. But then Noam Chomsky talks about how some of the negative characteristics of Kennedy, but negative or some things I don't know. But anyways, I hope you're doing well. Hope you're wherever you are. Good evening, good morning, good night, as I say, and stay safe. Can't wait till the pandemic is over, but it looks like every day now it's pretty much between like 500 or 200 cases to like 1,000 cases. Kept below 1,000 in Arizona, but everything pretty much every day is like 300 cases. I guess I talked to one friend's medical doctor of mine, a good friend, saying that maybe like several years. So at least I'll have a mask. I'll probably be wearing a mask on his YouTube channel for several years with maybe 2 subscribers or 1 subscriber. Uh, but anyways, philosophy is interesting. Uh, I think philosophy is very useful in trying to cope with difficult parts of life, like seeing a bird die or having a friend pass away or whatever, or our own death, our fears that we have. I think philosophy is great. It's great for helping you cope with your fears. Um, I think the Abrahamic belief system, like I said, has local stability for your mind, but I look at philosophy may have a little bit broader stability, and I'd say science even has much broader uh, stability for your mind and coping with difficulties, fear of death, fear of everything. I mean, like I say, I view fear, pain, and suffering are what all our ancestors figured out, or actually probably by uh, random, almost random, uh, mutation. But it's an artifact of survival, and the survival is I look at it as love. It's just to stay alive. In order to stay alive and continue the species, we evolved to have pain and suffering in order to continue survival of sapiens, survival of species, not just individual survival, but the whole world, humans, and all life on Earth. It's like, how do we survive? And And so that's one of the things that I see that the Roman philosophers didn't really think a lot about. It was more kind of their individual survival or individual optimization and then the close people around them, but not the entire world. Because they don't have the view, they don't have the 35,000 airplane view. They didn't have a view of the space station. They didn't have a view of Apollo on the moon, looking back at the Earth and seeing how small the Earth is. I mean, Seneca, I'm sure, would be totally, profoundly amazed to see that picture of the Earth from the moon. Um, I'll put that in the notes. But Apollo 8 had the first picture like that. Apollo Mission 8, which is probably the most daring mission because it was the first mission where we basically crossed the new sea that John Kinney talked about, which is basically going from the new sea being the space between Earth and the moon. And so in Apollo 8, that's when we did a big figure eight around, we left Earth orbit and went around the moon and then back in a figure eight pattern. But on that mission, they had pictures of the Earth. Uh, and that's an amazing time. I mean, they did talk. They did have like a religious thing because it was like Christmas Day. It happened. Uh, so they kind of said like a poem, but Apollo is a Greek god. Okay, so it's like Apollo is the son of Zeus, and uh, but Seneca didn't have a perspective. Marcus Aurelius didn't have that perspective. Uh, Boethius didn't have that perspective. Um, but that perspective really needs to teach us to expand what the early philosophers said is just we got to meditate on the death of all life on Earth. Until we do that, we're taking it for granted. And so we need to, if we want to survive, we have to get the fuck out of here at some point. Otherwise, we're just gonna die off. So, uh, it's just kind of like we're stuck in a cradle. I mean, we want Earth to survive too, but we're extremely fragile situation. Um, we know in our lifetimes, though, we don't perceive it as fragile because things don't change rapidly. It's just like a boiling frog. We're just like boiling frogs on the earth. We don't, you know, during one generation you don't see it, but in multiple generations, that's beyond the common vision of capitalism, which is short-term thinking most of the time. And yeah, we want to survive, and we're not going to survive just sitting on our asses doing nothing on Earth. I mean, uh, but the STEM pipeline, the science, technology, engineering, math pipeline was crushed probably with the last Apollo mission, which was Apollo 18 when they canceled the program. That's when it was crushed, and that was in the early 70s. At that same time, productivity went up, but the salaries went down, and so all the oligarchy basically hijacked all the money, and so that and then we it's kind of not all the money, but a lot of it. And this what Adam Smith would call in Wealth of Nations the vile maxim of the masters of mankind. Uh, in every age of the world. And so, yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem that even Adam Smith recognized. That's where Adam Smith and Karl Marx would sit down and have a beer together and realize that, hey, this is a big problem, and if we don't fix it, uh, it's just going to be another age of the world where everything gets fucked up. And hopefully that won't be the case. But I mean, I just we need to figure out how to solve this problem. And so we need to take the mind of Adam Smith and the mind of Karl Marx, and figure out how to optimize it. It's kind of funny growing up in the United States, and still today we got all these paranoid schizophrenic people who are freaked out about Karl Marx. I mean, it just amazes me how fearful, how scared, how cowardly people are when they hear the word Karl Marx. I mean, it just amazes me. It's kind of like a child. It's like talking to a child when you talk about Karl Marx. It's like an adult body, and freak out. It's like, oh, it's just stupid. But he wrote 3 volumes. I have it in my garage, and I want to read it. And it's another. There's also the Communist Manifesto, which is a really short book, and it's also interesting. That, people say it's like really controversial. I read it recently. I think I read it like a year ago, maybe or so. And there was nothing really controversial about it. I saw it. It wasn't, and it just amazes me. I mean, it's the amygdala hijacking, the emotional control switching center of the brain. That's what causes people to act beyond. I mean, they don't think logically, and so it's harder for them to understand opposing perceptions. So, anyways, I try to say goodbye, but I got a lot to say. But anyways, hope you're doing well. Please feel free to comment. Don't be afraid of me. I'm not an alien. I'm not a serial killer. I'm not a maniac. Maybe I'm a crazy person, but I think we're all crazy, if you ask me. But, and we got people that talk to a magic person every day. I think that's kind of crazy. Speaking of that, I'm gonna put a video down on. Okay, if you're a theist, you probably don't want to watch it in the You probably don't want to watch what I put in the comments, but uh, it's about science saved my soul from religion or something like that. It's a good video. Um, and if you're a theist, you may not want to watch it. I mean, if you believe in magic or God or whatever, it might be difficult for you to watch. Though I would say it's probably better that you watch it. Um, so I'll try to search for that in my comments below. But yeah, so that's enough for today. Life is short. I don't want to take up too much of your time. But the good thing about YouTube is you can zoom way ahead. You get bored with what I'm saying. You get bored to death with what I say, and then you can just like resurrect yourself to a different location in the video, at a different time. I'll try to put like the little timestamps in the comments or description, so you can kind of jump to different parts of these long videos, these long gibberish talks, random talks. Uh, so that's it. It's October 1st, 30 days to Halloween. I wish I was still a kid. I can't go trick or treating. I wear a mask all the time. Yeah, every day is Halloween day since this pandemic started. It's like every day is Halloween. Probably be for like a couple of years, 2 or 3 years now. It's weird. This pandemic started. It was just I was going, what the fuck's going on here? In some of my prior videos, I talk about it. It's just kind of a shock, but yeah, whatever. Every 100 years, I guess. So I hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a great life, happy life, and have fun. And hope find something useful in this video. Hope it doesn't do the opposite, because the opposite could happen too. I don't want the opposite to happen. I want you to have a better life and a happy life. And I hope these help you cope with when the difficult thing. That's why I'm interested in this. Is just it's especially this pandemic. All the people dying. I guess we're up to like 200,000, almost a million people have died from it or something like that. Uh, so it kind of helps cope. But don't forget to take your vitamin D every day. Like I said, 80% of the people who are suffering from this pandemic, this COVID-19, turned out to be vitamin D deficient, which is just amazing. I'm surprised that wasn't like day one when this pandemic started. It was all over news, but vitamin D is such a cheap solution. Capitalism doesn't make any money off of it. Hardly any money off of vitamin D because you can get it for free by laying out in the sun. You might get skin cancer, but don't spend too much time out in the sun unless you put sunscreen on or something. But yeah, vitamin D is what's seems to be one of the most crucial aspects of this pandemic. So I take vitamin D every day. So I hope you are too. And yeah, you take it easy. Zaijian, Pangyo, adios amigo, adios amiga. Sorry.